Good afternoon. I'm Spot On Weather meteorologist Matthew Euler, and I am back in the saddle. Just getting back into the routine of things here at Spot On Weather after a little bit of a layoff the last 2.5 weeks. I'm very excited to talk about the upcoming weather pattern for Southeast Virginia, so let's get right to it. All right, so let's first start off with the current analysis. Before I begin, though, I'd like to say thank you to the graphics are courtesy of Unisys Weather. Unisys Weather. So anytime you see these graphics, I want to make sure and give them credit. All right, so looking at the current analysis, the 27th of January for today's date, Saturday the 27th. We do have an upper level chart on the left here. This shows you the yellows and the greens indicate the area where the jet stream axis resides on the chart. This is a 30,000 foot level chart. And then on the right of every diagram or every slide I go through, I will be showing you the temperatures at 5,000 feet. This chart is shows you it's a great indicator of the temperature changes that we can expect. So I like these graphics, they're really good. And let's begin. So on the left here today, we have a trough, an area of lower atmospheric heights situated basically into the Alaska region. And then we have another trough developing downstream, generally over the upper Midwest at the present time. The yellow colors indicate higher wind speeds within the jet stream core, and these are known as jet stream maximums or jet streaks. And here are the wind speeds at the bottom to correlate with these yellow areas, which are higher wind speeds between 120 and 140 knots. All right, so we do have a little bit of a troughing developing over the northern plains today. We do have ridging off the east coast of the United States, and in conjunction with that, we have an area of higher pressure situated off the mid-Atlantic coast. This was an Arctic high that brought some fairly chilly weather, fairly cold weather the last couple nights into southeast Virginia, but now that has slid off to the east of the area. On the backside of high pressures in the northern hemisphere, we have southwesterly winds, and that's exactly what we're getting today across the area. And a warming trend. We are into the 60s today for temperatures as a result of the positioning of this high offshore and then this upper level ridge pattern at 30,000 feet over our heads. The coldest air is denoted by the purple and the maroon and red colors, which is basically situated over Canada. Moving ahead now to the forecast, the 24-hour forecast for Sunday, the 28th of January. This trough, there's an area of higher wind speeds, this jet maximum or jet streak, starting to dig a deeper trough into the Midwestern United States, and the ridge, these configuring lines here that bump up, that point upward, that ridge axis is now shifted offshore, and the high pressures also continue to shift further out into the central Atlantic Ocean. As a result, we expect a deepening trough, and we do expect some rain along a frontal boundary to start moving into the area tomorrow. There will also be an area of lower pressure that will develop along the leading edge of this long wave trough, just to the east of the long wave trough axis. And so we do expect an area of low pressure to form in the northeast Gulf and ride up the east coast and then out to sea. So the conjunction of the frontal system along with the coastal low pressure system moving up the coast will result in some fairly hefty rainfall amounts for southeast Virginia on the range of 1 to 2 inches. And it will really be coming down tomorrow, Sunday the 20th of January. So not the best of days tomorrow for outdoor activities. So hopefully you're getting out there today on Saturday the 27th of January, enjoying these mild temperatures and dry conditions. Moving on now to the forecast for Monday the 29th of January. The trough is getting deeper and deeper over the next 24 hours. And again, that's going to support an area of lower pressure that's going to come up and go basically from the southeast seaboard all the way up to the mid-Atlantic and then head out to sea. We do have colder air that's going to start to funnel in. These red and maroon colors and the purples are starting to funnel into the base of this long wave trough axis. So we do expect temperatures to start falling on Monday. We do expect scattered rain showers, but not an all-day washout on Monday. The heavier rain day will be Sunday, tomorrow the 28th. So it will still be overcast, mostly cloudy conditions to overcast on Monday. Much cooler conditions as the cooler air pours down into the base of the trough. Notice the ridging now developing along the west coast of the United States with the amplification of the trough downstream. Moving on now to the 72-hour forecast on Tuesday the 30th of January. I did do a different chart over here, the vorticity chart. I'll explain that here in a moment. we have a sharply amplifying or a deepening long wave trough over the eastern U.S. We have a little bit of a ridging back to the west of that over the northern plain states, the central U.S. And then I'm showing you vorticity on particular this time period because the yellows here generally indicate higher positive vorticity values of 20 to 26. Positive values of vorticity in association with this is a shortwave trough at 18,000 feet, 500 millibar level. We have a shortwave trough, which is upper level energy, or you'll hear sometimes they mention it on TV, the upper air disturbance, which will result in a possible, as this cold air funnels into the base of the long wave trough, thicknesses will fall, and then we will have the potential for a period of light snow showers, believe it or not, across southeast Virginia, with a possible dusting to 1 inch of snow on Tuesday, the 30th of January, as this upper level shortwave trough and this area of higher vorticity pushes through southeast Virginia. We're not expecting a very big, significant impacting event here, only a dusting to 1 inch of snow. We will keep an eye on it at Spot On Weather just in case things change and the strength of this increases over the next 48 hours. Moving on now to Thursday, a little bit longer range now. Now we're going to the month of February. We have a upper level ridge that's really starting to build off the west coast, just off to the west of the west coast of the United States over the eastern Pacific. When this thing goes up and builds higher up into the western U.S. and western Canada, that generally leads to a deepening long wave trough downstream, and that's happening now on Thursday, the 1st of February, into the northern plains and upper Midwest. These colors indicate much colder air. The oranges, yellows are the coldest air. You can see by the color code here at the bottom of the legend. So a lot of the colder air now starts spilling further down as the amplification of this jet stream or deepening of this long wave trough occurs. We're still fairly, we will have a rebounding day by Thursday across southeast Virginia. We do have high pressure sliding again off to our southeast, so the winds should turn around to the southwest again by Thursday, resulting in milder conditions. Moving on now to Friday, the 2nd of February, we have a deep long wave trough extending basically from Montana all the way down through Missouri, southern Illinois, southern Ohio, the Ohio River Valley, up into New England. We do see a lot of cold air situated basically coming down out of Canada into the upper Midwest and the northern plain states. Now, southeast Virginia at this point in time will be having a frontal passage come through. The winds will eventually shift to the northwest. And then by Saturday, the 3rd of February, we get colder air again into the mid-Atlantic region of southeast Virginia. You have a very active jet stream. This ridging continues across the eastern Pacific into Alaska and poking into western Canada, the deepening long wave trough. The colder air spills into the base of the long wave trough, so it will be much colder for a lot of you living across the northern U.S., New England, and on down here in the southeast Virginia. It will also cool down. Sunday, the 4th of February, the overall pattern shows this trough, again extending from generally Montana. It then becomes more zonal or flat. The jet stream flattens out from west to east across the Dakotas, Minnesota, Michigan, into New York State. The coldest air will remain to the north, over Canada, north of this jet stream axis, here denoted by these oranges and yellow colors. So for our day here in southeast Virginia, we're expecting seasonal weather by Sunday the 4th. I do want to take a look at the teleconnections. The winter forecast that we had displayed earlier on at the beginning of the winter, we did show you what these things generally mean for the weather. Generally a negative Arctic oscillation, or AO. We're showing that forecasted by these lines here at the bottom of the screen. So we look at the forecast out beyond 1 February here. We got a deep, much more trending negative Arctic oscillation, which indicates cold across the eastern U.S. The North Atlantic oscillation, the NAO, it's going to remain positive, all right? So it's above the zero line, the solid black line remains positive. And then the Pacific North American pattern is also remaining positive. So this negative AO and the positive Pacific North American pattern, that generally indicates colder conditions across the east in the long range. This North Atlantic oscillation remaining positive, that does not favor necessarily cold weather or major East Coast winter storms. Now, I did want to show you the MJO as well before we move ahead. Now, this is the GFS MJO, these two charts. One is the ensemble forecasting system, the GFS ensemble forecasting system, and then we have the actual operational. We do show the MJO is currently in phase 5, Madden Julian oscillation, as it pivots towards 6 and 7 on the GFS. Now the 5, 6, and 7 are generally milder phases of the MJO. What I'm not showing you is the European model, which I've taken a look at before doing the video today, and that shows us going into MJO phase 8 over time, over the next 7 to 10 days. A phase 8, a phase 1, and a phase 2 are the colder phases for the eastern United States. That means colder temperatures, possible Arctic air outbreaks. So we'll keep a close eye on the trends of the oscillation patterns, but I just thought I would mention about the European. Now these are, again, the GFS, the ensemble forecasting system, and the operational, showing us going into phases 6 and 7, which is still fairly mild, but the European is still bullish on keeping going into phase 8. Now, I did want to show you as we head into February, this is what typically happens in February. The 1st to the 15th of February, climatologically, the greatest chance of measurable snowfall in southeast Virginia. We have just happened to have a very snowy January. But we got to keep this in mind. Here are the top 10 snowfall snowstorms that we've had in Norfolk area. 40% of these events have occurred in February, and you can see this right here. We had one 15.4-inch storm in February 1989. Then there was another one, 13.5-inch, number 5 on the list, basically in February of 1899. That goes back quite a ways. Then we had another storm in February, 12.4 inches in 1980. All right, and then there's one more at 12.4 inches in 1948. So 40% of these events, the top 10 snowfall events and snowstorms in Norfolk, have occurred in the month of February. Just something to keep in mind. Again, typically we get our most accumulating chances of snowfall in February. Water temperatures currently are about 39 degrees over at Sewell's Point, so the water temperatures are still fairly cold. So here's my long-range final thoughts to wrap things up. We do have a very cold air mass across Canada. Now the question in the long term is, will there be enough amplification in the upper level jet stream pattern to dislodge the cold air into the U.S.? Or will the bulk of the coldest air remain in Canada across the northern U.S.? We do have heavy rain slated for Sunday, 28 January, into Monday, 29 January, and then possibly up to 2 inches of rain. It's going to be a heavy rainfall across southeast Virginia as a storm moves up the east coast. Now, we do have upper level trough and higher vorticity moving in overnight Monday night and Tuesday. We could have a result of a period of light snow showers, dusting to 1 inch possible for southeast Virginia on Tuesday. And again, there is my teleconnections, and the pattern is going to remain very active with the possibility of wintry precip nearby between 2 and 8 February along the leading edge of Arctic air. All right, that wraps things up today at Spot On Weather. I'm happy to be back, and I hope everyone has a great Saturday. Remember, we're Spot On Weather. If we're not spot on, we're not doing it right. Have a great Saturday afternoon, everybody.